in this video, I'm going to be making a fairly quick guide on what all of the best classes are to be using in Clotho's trial. So the obvious two are going to be both the Pyromancer and Death Knight, because both of these benefit the most from life on hit. So if you've got life on hit gear, if you're running Pyromancer or the Death Knight with that life on hit gear, it's going to be very, very hard to get beaten by anyone that isn't also using life on hit. It's just going to be very difficult for the opposing team, especially if you're running like the Soulstorm and the Frostbite Curse. It's just going to be really difficult for you to do anything about that if you don't have any life on hit stuff yourself, if you're going against someone that does have life on hit with one of these classes. So both of these classes with life on hit are very, very, very powerful. And then the third best class to use with life on hit that I've seen a lot of people using is the Swordmaster. But this is nowhere near as good as the other two classes, I think, when it comes to benefiting from life on hit, because they are very, very susceptible to critical attacks. If they use their E ability, their Spinny Spin Sword ability, that can just be perfect parried like over and over again every time it comes around. So you're probably going to be taking a lot more damage as this class, but if you're careful of that, then this still is a very good third pick for someone that is using life on hit. So now, just assuming you're like broke, you don't have any coins or gold or anything, and you can't buy all the shiny life on hit gear, I'm gonna go into the classes that I think are going to be best for, you know, just going in with full grey stuff, maybe a couple rings and necklaces to get one thing boosted, and then you just put on like the purple armor that the game gives you. So my tier list is going to be, well, not a tier list, my number one pick is still going to be the Death Knight. And that is because their will passive that gives you soul, that gives you life when you absorb soul energy, that's very powerful. And also their ability that generates 20 soul energy if you hit a target, that's very powerful, because then you're just going to be able to keep getting Soulstorm. And then also your dexterity, which affects enemies' movement speed. It reduces enemies' movement speed by 25% if they're affected by Soulstorm. That's also super duper duper powerful. It's just a lot easier to kind of stick right up close to someone and keep bonking them with a two-handed sword if you've got this on. So you've got three passives here. You can go for pretty much any of them that you want. You've got three passives that are all very, very, very good for the Death Knight. And also just their grab, the ability to instantly take someone out of position and put them in a really bad spot for your three teammates to all gang up on them and quickly turn the fight into a 3v2 because they're in such a bad position they just die straight away. That's going to be very powerful, especially depending on what you're running it with. If you're a Death Knight and you've got like a Druid and a Pyromancer, Pyromancer pops Ice Storm, Druid pops down a tree enter 2, and you grab someone into that, they're really not going to survive for that long themselves. So this can be super duper powerful, both in solos and especially if you're pairing it with some type of coordination with your teammates, if you're, you know, trio queuing or duo queuing or something like that. But the Death Knight is just going to be a very, very, very solid pick for this game mode. And also, if you're not fantastic, having a higher health pool is always going to be good, because it's going to allow you to make more mistakes while staying alive for longer. So the Death Knight's also going to be very good in terms of tankiness as well. Next up, I'm actually going to put the Pyromancer, which I think is probably quite surprising to a lot of people, but I think that this is very, very good. Especially if you're not like an absolute pro at this game. If you just stay far away and spam the fireballs as much as you possibly can, which you can do because the game gives you lots of mana potions to go in with. I think it gives like 3 for each player. I mean 3 for each player rather. But if you don't have another caster on your team, then you can just take all of the mana potions because no one else is going to be using them. So then you can like really, really spam those fireballs a lot, which is just going to be doing so much damage. And if you charge up the big fireball, that's going to have knockback on it. So if you charge up a big fireball and then the enemy maybe gets a little bit close, and then you use your fire blast to knock them far away, and then you have like another fireball which has more knockback on it, it's just going to be really hard for someone to get close to you. And while they are trying to get close to you, you're going to be doing a lot of damage to them before they actually reach that melee range. Now, if it is a Death Knight or something, you will be able to use the Fire Blast to get you out of that, and then your Fire Blast is going to be on cooldown, but so is the Death Knight's grab, right? So I think this is a very, very solid class for just like staying on the back lines, letting your teammates do your thing, and just blasting people from far away while staying relatively safe and just trying to get picks from, you know, very far away in a safe location. I think this is going to be very solid. Also, if some sneaky rogue or sneaky jumping panther sneaks up on you, you can just use your blast, and that's probably going to buy you enough time to call out to your teammates where the enemies are, or it's going to give you enough time to like shoot some fireballs at them. So I think it has like a decent amount of survivability while dishing out super high amounts of damage. So I definitely think that this is very, very solid. And also it's got a couple of fairly useful passives in there. I kind of like just going for intelligence, so I just get more damage on pretty much everything. But there's a couple of decent passives here that you can choose from. It does really just depend on your playstyle. If the stamina passive can actually be a little bit useful for just getting extra life back, especially if you hit all 3 people with it. But I think the Pyromancer is going to be a very, very good pick for Clotho's trial. Then I'm actually going to put the Fighter. Their new strength passive, now it does cost 87 strength, which is a lot of strength. However, if you have like a two-handed sword and a crossbow, both with strength on them, that already gives you a lot of strength. And then if you just have like 3 things that give you strength, like from the rings and from the necklace, that's generally enough to get very, very high strength. And then if you get one thing in game, like out of all of the purple gear, if you get one thing that has a strength bonus on it, you're going to reach the strength passive. Or you can just, you know, try and get a better necklace or a better ring or like some type of clothing that has strength on it. But if you get like one more thing here and you reach that 87 strength, you get 2 uses of whatever your E ability is, which is very, very powerful. Like having 2 charges is pretty good. It can get you in and out of a lot of really bad situations. You do go quite far with it, and having 2 of them is just really, really good. And if you pair this with Whirlwind, Whirlwind does really high amounts of damage, even if they're blocking. So if someone's got like a two-handed sword or like a wizard shield instead of like a proper shield, then like an orb shield, you're still going to do like at least a quarter of their health bar with a full Whirlwind. But in an ideal situation, you get like 2 or 3 swings off on someone before they start blocking, which is going to be a lot of their health gone, and then you get like another quarter of their health gone from even the hits that they do block. So even if someone blocks like a full thing of Whirlwind, that's still going to do a lot of damage to them, and then once that's done, you can just charge out of there so that you don't have any repercussions from that, and then maybe you just crossbow them as well, and that's like a quarter of someone's health bar gone. I do think Whirlwind's a very solid option, but if you don't want to use that, the Battle Cry is also very, very, very good. You can charge into a fight with like a charge attack ready to go, and you have that 30% increase like attack power, physical resistance, and 30% lifesteal. So Battle Cry is also like a very, very solid pick here, and the Fighter is obviously extraordinarily tanky and capable of dishing out very large amounts of damage pretty quickly as well, especially with Battle Cry or Whirlwind. So I think this is a very solid choice as well, particularly for people that maybe aren't fantastic and they do, again, want like that extra bit of health just so they have a little bit more survivability in games. But I think the Fighter is actually a very solid choice now that they have 2 charges. And also their will passive is very, very good. If you get this, you can't damage your teammates and your teammates can't damage you. So this would be very, very good to pair with like a Pyromancer that's charging up loads and loads of fireballs. And if they just like spam those into wherever the Fighter is fighting, I think that's gonna go pretty well for your team. And just to finish off, obviously all of the other classes are like very, very solid as well, or most of them. Like the Cryomancer is still a very, very solid class. I'm not really playing it much anymore because its ice block did get nerfed, so I don't really like that you don't have as much heals as before. But Cryomancer is still super annoying to play against. It's still pretty powerful. Swordmaster in the right hands can be very, very powerful as well. The Rogue's in a pretty weird spot right now, but if you can get those backstabs, then this can kill people really quickly, especially if you've got like the right perks on. If you've got like stacking life on kill with the poison crossbow, that can still dish out very, very high amounts of damage as well, if you like that playstyle. So the Rogue is also viable. The Druid is very good. I haven't put them in my top picks, but they are very, very good. The Treants, if you get the perk that gives you 2 of them, it's the, which perk is it? If you get the Will perk, that's going to be very, very good. You get 2 treants, and then you're just going to be zapping people with your fire and thunder staffs. That's probably going to be quite good. You can always Panther to either run away or jump into a fight. Super high survivability. So the Druid is very, very good as well. Like, I'd say this is probably on par with... It's probably a little bit better than the Pyromancer, actually. But I think for most people, the Pyromancer is probably going to be an easier time. Not so much thinking you just want to stay far away and fire blast people. Like, this kind of list of what I think is going to be best isn't for, like, the top tier players. This is going to be for, like, your average player that wants to get some gold from Clotho's trial, right? So I think these are going to be the classes that is going to be easiest to do that with. So that's why I'm not putting Druid as, like, one of the #1 picks there. Same goes for the Pyromancer, because they are quite slow and you only have the ice block. And once that's done, there's a chance you're just going to get ganged up on when you come outside of that ice. But I feel like the Pyromancer, the Death Knight, and the Fighter are all a little bit more forgiving. The Swordmaster can be perfect parried pretty easily, so you have to watch out for that. The Rogue is just pretty hard to play. And that brings us to the Priest. This is in a pretty weird spot right now. I know a lot of people are saying that the Priest is pretty good in this game mode. I haven't really found that. I know there is a cheese that you can do where if you just wait until the storm closes in all the way and the Priest uses their immortality, they'll, like, be immune to the storm for 3 seconds, however long their immortality lasts or their immunity lasts, and the other person's just gonna die in the storm. So if you want to play like that and you want to wait until the game is almost over and you want to just survive in the ring and run away from the other people, I mean, you can do that as a Priest, but aside from that, I do feel like you would be offering more as a different class. But I feel like this isn't as bad in Clotho's trial as it might be in just, like, your average game. I feel like this does have, like, a little bit of a purpose. I do, however, feel like if you want to heal your teammates, you should probably just be using Druid with the regrowth ability instead of the Treant, instead of the Force of Nature, because this is just going to heal people over time. And also the Druid just has much more survivability. You can just jump really far away from someone pretty much instantly, and the Priest's immunity only lasts like 3 seconds, and you can use it twice if you have a certain perk, but I feel like they're going to be a lot squishier than the Druid. I have stuff here that I can sell, which is exciting for me. I can get some more gold from that. That's made me rather happy. So yeah, there you go. Just a quick little video on what I think the best classes would be to play in Clotho's trial for, like, your average player, not for, like, the top tier players, and not for, like, the, you know, the poorer players, just for, like, the average player. That's what I think you'd probably have the easiest times with. Obviously, play whatever you like. You know, if you really like the Priest, if you really like the Rogue, you should probably just go in with those. You're probably gonna play better with something that you like than you would with something that you don't like. So you should always play what you like, but if you don't really mind what you play, yeah, that's how I feel each of the classes would perform. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to be it for this video. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Farewell.